welcome to another episode of Matt Talks Sports. And we are now officially ranked on the charts as the number 1,113th football podcast on Apple Podcasts.
I'll take it. Yo,
it's a victory. It's a victory. We're taking it. But if you guys want to help us out and get us higher up on that list, rate and review the show. Leave us a nice little message. It helps other people find the show and gets us moving up that list.
I'm an Android person, and I'm about to go buy an iPhone just to have it on Apple.
I mean, we're coming up on top 1,000.
Yeah.
1,113. There's probably like 1,114 football podcasts.
Probably.
So screw that other podcast. But anyway, we're here to talk some football today. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. There's a lot of good football to talk about. Got a lot from week 3 to cover. First, should we start off with our game?
Sure.
Do you think we need to,
I've watched that game a lot.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Because there was a lot of discussion online about who was to blame for the game plan and
who's to blame? Hit us.
I think in general, the defensive talent is just much better than the offensive weapons the Raiders had. They were dealing with,
Are you saying the Vikings' defensive talent? Okay.
The defensive talent of the Vikings, it was just superior to what they had out there. I also didn't like the game plan. The interception was an interesting pass. It was a bad play that should have been checked out of, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was a really bad throw. That one kind of startled me when it happened. It seemed like a pretty awful throw.
So you had a delayed blitzer coming from the linebacking core. So if he throws it low, it's picked off anyway. And if he tried to fit in a window, and he just didn't have it that throw. He didn't get it there. But besides that, there were several times where there were 2 wide receiver routes and block and max protect. And I think Zimmer said it in his press conference that they just felt very comfortable running their defense against a max protect Raiders front. When you only have Tyrell Williams, who was hurt as well, he had a hit through the whole week in practice. Josh Jacobs was sick, had the groin last week. He lost 10 pounds. He threw that on Instagram, which he should have done.
Yeah.
He was in and out of the game. When he was in the game, often looked like a play-action decoy for most of those plays.
He did, yeah. He definitely didn't look like himself. But at the same time, the Vikings defense does that to a lot of really good running backs. But it's just tough to know. It's tough to know how much it was bothering him. You have to assume.
There is a however to this statement.
Okay.
Defensive-wise, I believe the first 2 drives should have absolutely been stopped if it weren't for, in my opinion, bogus penalties. The first one, there was a ghost holding call. Did you see the holding on someone who wasn't in the play? Mr. Pass interference?
I don't remember that one specifically.
Okay.
I don't remember the situation.
The first 2 drives were a little interesting with the
I'm trying to remember now exactly when it was. I do remember both me and my dad, when we were watching the game, kind of laughed and were like, yeah, that was a terrible call, but we'll take it. But I thought it was later on in the game, but maybe you're right. Maybe it was one of those first 2 drives.
The very first 2 touchdown drives.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the Vikings probably still win the game. Just how that defensive played, it was called well. And in my opinion, it was mainly play calling. You've got to scheme better against a team that is that much more talented directly against your offense. They don't have a true number 1 wide receiver, and they definitely don't have a number 2 behind Tyrell Williams.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was one of those games that the game script just worked perfectly for the Vikings. They get a lead early, and that's what they need to win games. Anytime the Vikings get a lead early, they're really, really, really tough to beat because they just want to run the ball down your throat. And Dalvin Cook is on fire right now.
He's a beast.
Yeah, it's really tough to stop that once it gets going. And this is, I think I even mentioned on the last podcast, this is the type of game that works for Kirk Cousins. It's low pressure. It's not in the national spotlight. It's not a division game. These are the games that
Mike
he just plays.
Schlereth on commentary. Definitely not a high-profile game.
Not high-profile when Stinks in the booth. But, yeah, it just felt low pressure. Not to disrespect the Raiders at all. It's just not the same stakes as like a game against a division game. Yeah.
Not yet.
So this is the
Definitely.
game that kind of all the Vikings fans were expecting. Kirk will be fine. And then we really find out the test is next week against the Bears because that's an important game for the
Got
division.
the number one player in the NFL coming.
Yeah, we're still
play.
doing this. He's been good. I'll
Just
give you
good.
that. He's been great. He's been great. But I'm just saying, we're 3 games
Almost
in.
cost you a fantasy game.
Oh man, that was very, very stressful going against that Bears D this week, but I held on. So anyway, moving past the Vikings, I think that was, like I kind of predicted last week, that was going to be a good game for them. We'll see what happens with the Bears this week. I don't really know what to expect, but we'll have a lot to talk about for that next week. So moving on, one of the things that we wanted to cover this week was the new quarterbacks. Like we talked about last week, a lot of new quarterbacks stepping in for either injured QBs or QBs getting benched. So there's just a lot of fresh faces this week. All right, so where should we start? Which one do you want to cover first?
Let's start with the one I have the most faith in Teddy Bridgewater.
Okay. Yeah, so he's a little different from the other ones. The others were a lot of younger guys making their first or second starts early in their careers. Teddy's had a lot more experience, but he is one of the guys filling in, so he still fits the category. He was fine. I mean, he didn't really have to do a whole lot. It was a really safe game plan, which is kind of what I expected, but what I didn't want to see. We really want to see what happens if they turn that offense loose, and it was just a really safe, conservative game, and it worked. They won the game, so...
It was against Seattle, though.
In Seattle. And that was the first time. That was a stat that everyone was throwing around, kind of a complicated stat streak, I guess. But it's the first time Seattle's lost a home September game since 2009, which I didn't know that was a streak, but apparently they broke that streak.
It's interesting to break down to the month.
Yeah, exactly. So apparently Seattle's tough in September at home, but whatever. They broke that streak, so... Good for Teddy. I mean, it's kind of what we said, is he'd be a fine fill-in. He's a good, safe guy, but he didn't really light it up. I mean, he threw for 177 yards, but didn't make the mistakes to hurt him, that's for sure.
Yeah, and they have Dallas this upcoming week.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun one. That's a game where they're going to have to open up that offense because Dallas is scoring this year. So,
we'll see.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, it could get into a defensive battle. You never know, but... We'll see about that one. Another one that I was really high on, Kyle Allen. That one I did not expect, but he played an excellent game for the Panthers.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yeah. Yeah, and he threw a pretty high completion percentage, too. He was at 73% on his passes and just really sharp overall for the game. I wasn't expecting that kind of production out of him. I thought they would go with like the Teddy philosophy of not really letting him do much, but they seem to really trust Kyle Allen. And oddly enough, a lot of fans got really carried away with one game and started the replacing Cam conversations.
No way. He's going to come way down to earth against their next opponent being the Texans. Like, I wouldn't expect that every week.
Yeah, it was
Even
the Cardinals.
close.
I mean, a lot of teams are going to light up the Cardinals this year, but at the same time, he did everything you could ask of him. So, I mean, that was a good game, but yeah, those conversations I thought were a little premature, but they're happening, which is crazy.
Then we got Daniel Jones.
Yo, Danny Dimes put on a show
against the Buccaneers.
That was so fun. Did you watch any of that game?
I did, yeah. I watched a little bit of it.
He was really impressive.
He had the throw in the end zone that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He had the run against the man coverage. He read it perfectly.
That was the thing that I think was the most like eye-popping thing is I had no idea he was that athletic. And he was moving. And it's weird to see from a Giants game because you're so used to seeing Eli. But the quarterback can move now. And he can actually get around and make some plays on his feet. So... I don't know. I'm really excited, and I know that's been kind of the buzz of the league right now is all about him. And people are getting carried away with that one too, and they're running wild and saying, oh, the Giants are redeemed for that pick. Who knows? It's one game.
It was the Buccaneers who escaped a loss against Cam Newton on one foot. Like, they escaped with a victory. I don't really read too much into this.
But their defense this year has been a pretty swarming blitz-heavy D, which against a first-time starter is kind of scary. So I was impressed. I mean, Todd Bowles is running that defense now, and it's been pretty nice. You know, obviously not top of the league, but it's been pretty nice. It seems improved. So I don't know. I'm giving him a little more credit than you are. I was really impressed. I thought it was awesome.
Well, he has another matchup to look good against the Redskins next week.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's the perfect time to start him because he's going to get, some relatively easy matchups before it gets tougher for him. But I was really blown away. I thought it was a great performance. On the other hand, another one that I was not impressed with, Mason Rudolph. We had built up, not necessarily we, but the media had built up Mason Rudolph as being the Ben Roethlisberger replacement or potential heir apparent, and the Steelers were so hyped on him. I don't know if you watched a lot of that game, but I did, and I thought he looked kind of lousy.
Yeah, you can't get the field position you were getting and not win that game.
Yeah, just squandered it. I don't know. He definitely looked like the kind of guy who was replacing a starter and not able to fill the shoes. Again, don't want to overreact to one game, but he just definitely didn't have the type of performance that like Kyle Allen and Daniel Jones did. I came away feeling pretty negative about
a better
him.
Opponent, but really you gotta play better than that.
Yeah, and I don't know. The Niners were trying everything they could possibly do to give that game away. I think they were the first team ever to lose the turnover battle by 4 turnovers and still win the game. They had a -4 differential and still won. So that you got to start to put that on the offense and put it on the quarterback at that point.
We got Josh Rosen in Miami.
Yeah, and that one, I don't know. It's tough to even hold it against Josh Rosen. He's taking over. Yeah,
I can't.
I mean, that team is very clearly tanking, and he continued the tank job. He was pretty terrible, threw for under 50% completion percentage and no touchdowns. They scored 6 points. It just looked exactly the same as their offense with Fitzpatrick. Pretty terrible all around. What do you think they do there? Do they keep throwing Rosen out the whole season, or as long as he can last?
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care about him.
That's true.
At all.
When they got him, it looked like they were getting him to be the quarterback of the future, but that was before they went all in on this tank job, and now they're clearly just going to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
So what are they doing with Rosen? I don't know what. Do they trade him? And if they're going to trade him, do you protect him and not show him getting embarrassed every week? Because that's only going to hurt his value. I don't know. I just don't know what their strategy is.
I'm not going to pretend like I know what Miami is
exactly.
thinking.
We don't know, but it's something to think about if that is their plan. I don't know, but it's tough to sell it to your fan base too if you're just throwing Ryan Fitzpatrick out there every week when your team is going to probably be close to 0-16. We should probably take the time.
I want to look at that schedule.
That's what I was going to say. We should take some time to look at that schedule and see if that's actually in play, because people keep making that joke, but they haven't even been remotely competitive in any of these 3 games. So I think it's a fair question to ask. I know you're looking over the schedule. Were you able to find any potential winnable games?
The closest is the Jets if Darnold isn't 100% recovered from mono. But
how soon do they play them?
Soon, I think.
Couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're division opponents.
Yeah, I don't know. I had high hopes for the Jets this year, and I'm thinking a lot of their struggles are because the Redskins are bad. But what I was going to say is I think the Jets' struggles are mostly because they're without their quarterback, and most teams would struggle without their quarterback. So hopefully they'll be more competitive. But I don't see them losing to the Dolphins. I don't think the Dolphins have any interest in winning games.
I think we're going to see who wants to give away the game more, the Redskins or the Dolphins.
Yeah,
who wants the quarterback more in the draft.
Yeah. The Redskins are very poorly coached, I think, and also just shooting themselves in the foot every game, because they were in a couple of those games and just blew them. So I don't know. And when do we see Dwayne Haskins? That Monday night game, they brought it up several times.
Should be the Dolphins.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely don't want to throw him out there against the Bears when Keenum's just getting crushed all game.
Yeah.
I understand why they didn't play him against the Bears, but at some point you got to throw him in there. We're in an era now for quarterbacks where it's easier than ever for young guys to get in there and get work and not fear ruining their career or making bad habits. So I'd throw him in there.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect opportunity. I don't think the Dolphins are trying to win games. I think Jay Gruden is trying to win games. The way the team has come out the first 2 weeks and played well for the first half of the game. I mean, this game against Khalil Mack did not have a chance at all.
No. But I think, like you said, I think Jay Gruden's trying to win games, and Jay Gruden's just not a good coach. I think we're finding out he might just not be a good coach and may be getting fired this season. A lot of the talk going into the year was that he needed to make the playoffs to keep his job.
That's something he said.
That is not happening. They are not making the playoffs. But we'll come back to that. That might be a topic for later in the show here. Okay, let's move on. I've got a topic here for you that I already know you're going to be griping with a little bit. So follow me here. So we've got a list of undefeated teams. There are 7 undefeated teams. I separated 3 from the pack that I feel we can all agree are for real. That's the Patriots, the Chiefs, and the Cowboys, based on how they've played in recent years and how they've played so far this year. And then the remaining 4 unbeaten teams are the 49ers, the Bills, Packers, and Lions. The Lions are 2-0-1. The rest are all 3-0. So my question was, which of those 4 teams, and we can go one by one through them and talk about them, are for real? Do we think any of those teams are for real? And what I mean by for real is playoff team. Not necessarily Super Bowl champions, but a playoff team. Let's start with the Packers, because I know that's the one you're upset about. You think the Packers should be in that top list?
I think if they're not in the top list, neither should Dallas. Dallas shouldn't be there. But the Packers have beaten the best teams out of the undefeated teams.
I hear you. I hear you on that one, and it's a very solid argument. The thing that I would say about the Packers is they've been very one-sided right now. Their defense is winning them games, and their offense is very unimpressive. All 3 of their games, their offense has looked very pedestrian, and it doesn't like each of their wins feels, I don't want to say fluky, but it feels like they definitely could have lost all 3 of them, whereas the Cowboys, granted against lesser competition, have just dominated. The Cowboys have rolled teams on both sides of the ball, and to me have felt like they're a class above. But like you're saying, that could totally be because of the competition, but that's just where I placed them. So you're more than welcome to place them differently.
Yeah, I see the questions. In my opinion, there's the only 2 undefeated teams that I know are for real, and that's Kansas City and the Patriots. Kansas City, just because talent level is better than pretty much the league, the entire league.
Yeah.
The Patriots, because they're always real. Dallas, we haven't seen real competition until this week against the Saints. Even though backup quarterback, that defense on the Saints is real, and Teddy is serviceable, and they have some weapons. So that is going to be a test.
I totally agree. This is going to be their biggest test yet.
Yeah. The Packers, there are questions. I just don't like them on this list with the Bills, Lions, and the 49ers.
Hey, we're going through each one by one. So the Packers, are they for real? Are they in the playoffs this year?
Yeah. They've already
so?
at least split the division with 2 of the tougher opponents.
So in their division, they've got the Lions at 2-0-1, the Bears at 2-1, and the Vikings at 2-1.
Yeah, so at least they're splitting with Minnesota and Chicago.
They're only a game ahead of those teams. You think they're going to be able to beat out all of those other teams based on what you've seen so far? Because me personally, I can just speak for myself. I don't. I'm far more confident in the Bears. I'm far more confident in the Vikings, not the Lions. We can talk about the Lions. The Lions are a complete
This
fluke.
is the division that might have both of those wild card spots locked up.
It's possible because the South is struggling so badly. The Eagles are not living up to it. So, yeah, it could be. It could be.
The West, I mean, sure, they have San Francisco right now undefeated, but...
Yeah. The problem, I would say, is they're going to play each other so many times. They're going to put some L's on each other. But...
Well, they've played each other quite a bit already.
They have. But what you just said is a good segue because I think the 49ers are for real. And I think they're in this playoff mix.
You can't turn the ball over 4 times.
No, I totally agree. But think of it that way. That was as bad as they could possibly play and as poor as it could go. And they still found a way. They're a resilient team.
Mason Rudolph, man.
Sure. No, I'm with you. But I mean, you're
making excuses that you were not giving Aaron Rodgers right now.
I agree. You're totally valid in that. But what I'm saying is they have played well on both sides of the ball. And I think it's also probably a mix of lower expectations, right? So and a lesser division. Whereas they're going to play the Rams. Well, I guess it's not even necessarily a lesser division because I think the Seahawks have been pretty impressive. So two good teams that they're going to play in the division. But I just feel far more confident, even like what we talked about in the preview show about last year, the Niners being really good on both sides of the ball, really underrated. And I continue to see Kyle Shanahan looking like a top-tier game planner, play designer. He just knows how to get people open and make plays happen with second, third, fourth string running backs. I just think it's sustainable because it's not dependent on specific players. It's just the scheme, kind of like Sean McVay, where it's like it doesn't really matter if one or two guys goes out because he's going to scheme them open anyway. That's the way I'm feeling about Shanahan right now. So I'm believing in them as a wild card team.
When I look at the competition of who they've beaten,
Sure.
I'm just not impressed.
Yeah, no, and back to the Packers. I'm definitely not down on the Packers because their defense is light years ahead of what I expected them to be. I thought they tried to remake a defense overnight in the offseason by getting a bunch of free agents, but it has worked. Their defense looks great, and it's been much better than I expected it to be. The thing that I'm saying is that their offense is way below what I expected it to be, and it's looked really sloppy, and it looks like Rodgers and LaFleur aren't quite on the same page yet. So if they get that straightened out and the defense is playing like it is, that's a division
more
winner.
Where I am. It's just they're clearly not on the same page yet.
Right.
You hope that gets fixed throughout this first season.
But you can't assume it.
You can't assume. But they've beaten two division opponents already.
Yeah.
Not in sync.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a good point, and it's very valuable just in terms of tiebreakers too, because when you get towards the end of the year, if you're close, those games are going to come back to haunt you. If you're the Bears
I do
and
like
you're the Vikings.
Chicago the most in this division, but their quarterback situation is much worse.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Than the
Trubisky has looked like, I mean, what? Would you say one of the bottom 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the entire league?
He scares me whenever he is ready to throw. Every
backups
time.
that we were just talking about that have come in look better than Trubisky.
Yeah.
Right now, who would you rather have, Trubisky or Gardner Minshew?
Well, Minshew, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
100%.
And he was a 6th round pick, and Trubisky was number 2 overall in the first round. So it's kind of crazy what the Bears are dealing with now. But that's the mess they've got to figure out, because the rest of that team, that defense, looks like it's going to be pretty ferocious again this year. Any thoughts on the Lions? Are we kind of in agreement that their 2-0-1 is just a complete fluke? I mean, they've beaten...
We're going to find out about Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying...
They beat the Chargers and Eagles, who coming into the year, we would have said that's super impressive, but those teams just self-destructed in those games. It really felt like they just kind of beat themselves with boneheaded plays.
They allowed Kyler Murray to get back in that game when it looked like they should have just ran away with it.
So, I mean, good for the Lions. They won those games. We can't really take that away from them.
They faced Kansas City. Good luck.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see it with the Lions. They didn't look great in those games. I'm not betting on it. I'm still pretty confident they finish last in that division by probably a couple games.
Yeah. We got the Bills. Did we talk about the Bills?
We have not talked about the Bills yet, which is great. Let's talk about the Bills because they've been really good and they've been winning close games. Josh Allen's looking like he made a jump up from last year.
Yeah.
Looking much more consistent. That was one of the things we talked about in the preview, too, is how he was a candidate for being one of the most volatile players in the league, where you can have monster performances and then absolute train wreck Trubisky performances. But he's been pretty consistent so far. It's only 3 games, and their defense is looking really, really good.
They got some players on defense for sure.
Yeah. Do you think they have any shot this week against the Patriots? I mean, they're both 3-0. It's in Buffalo, but like we've said, the Patriots.
I saw a stat. Tom Brady's like 15-2 in Buffalo, and if you take all the quarterbacks that have since he started for New England,
Yeah.
however many years ago,
Yeah,
17.
it's more wins in Buffalo than any quarterback,
yeah.
including Bills quarterbacks.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's been a rough run for Buffalo. They did have that one playoff year. Tyrod snuck them in a couple years ago, but I don't know. To me, this team doesn't feel fluky. It's just tough to see where they fit into the playoff race.
Depending who suits up for New England this week, because they have people on the injury report, but it is New England where they just either everyone's on the injury report or no one's on the injury report.
Yeah, but I mean, Edelman and Josh Gordon both took legit injuries last week. So if one or both missed the game, you could really see that affecting their offense.
Yeah, they have some O linemen. They have some struggles there, some injuries, and
yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to say that I give the Bills a chance this week. It's tough to see them beating the Patriots.
If they get off to a fast start, sure, but if they can't let this go into the fourth quarter.
And I did hear Devin Singletary is going to play, which that was a question with his injury, but it sounds like he is going to play. So I mean that Buffalo crowd can get pretty wild sometimes.
They definitely can.
If they're fired up and jumping through tables and stuff in the pregame and tailgate and getting themselves fired up, maybe they can pull some magic. I just don't know. But in general, let's not think about just the Patriots game. Do you see them as a potential playoff team?
No.
No? It's tough. It's tough with the AFC. It's hard to see where they would fit in, but the thing that I think gives them a shot is just that these other teams that we're expecting to be playoff teams have gotten slow starts and have already taken some early losses.
That's why it's tough to think about. But
yeah, if I'm just generally thinking about the teams, I think of these other teams higher than the Bills. But those wins eventually just start piling up, and then you get to the end of the year and you're like, oh dang, the Bills are 10-6, and they might sneak into a wild card. Something like that can happen. I mean, think about it. They're 3-0 now.
Yeah,
if they just go 7-6,
500 almost. Yeah,
7-6 the rest of the year, and they're a 10-6 team. That probably gets you a wild card right now. So it's possible. And if the Jets continue to be as terrible as they are, you play the Jets and Dolphins.
There's some
winnable games
for sure. So.
There's winnable games on the schedule. I don't know. I'm kind of talking myself into the possibility of a Buffalo wild card. I'm not all the way in, but I'm definitely interested. I'm buying Buffalo stock. Let's talk about the opposite side. So let's go the opposite end here. There's a few winless teams. So we got the Dolphins, Jets, Bengals, Steelers, Broncos, and Redskins, all at 0-3. And then the Cardinals are 0-2-1 with the tie. Do any of those teams, do you see any of them making a run? And if so, which one?
The only chance is Pittsburgh. It's the only chance.
You think they have a shot still?
It's not looking likely. But
like I said, we don't want to overreact to one game of Mason Rudolph, but it didn't look great.
Dolphins tanking, Jets in that division, Bengals no, Broncos no, Redskins no.
Yeah, the only one that I'm thinking maybe
Cardinals in that division no.
Maybe Denver. If I don't really.
What do you mean a run? Like just racking some wins up? Because
I don't see it. I really don't. But I'm just looking at like the talent on the roster. There's enough talent on Denver's roster to be a wild card team, but that 0-3 start just hurts real bad.
Yeah.
And they haven't looked good. Vic Fangio is not coaching very well at all. Have you heard the talk about how he's never coached on the field before? He's always been coaching from up in the booth because he's a coordinator. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that really does throw him off a lot. Because I mean,
you can see more. You can see what they're trying to do.
There's a reason they coach from up there a lot of times, and he's calling the defensive plays still. And so if he just is uncomfortable with that,
especially now, you get up until 15 seconds on the play clock to talk to your middle linebacker.
It's a weird change, and I think it's really affecting him because that's his specialty, and they have so much talent on defense, but yet somehow can't get pressure and can't get sacks. It's really bizarre. That's been one of the more surprising slow starts. But yeah, I really don't think any of them. I don't see any of them making a run. Like you said, the Steelers and Broncos maybe, but I would say no to all of them. But taking out Denver and taking out Pittsburgh from what you would have imagined in the preseason, there's that Buffalo spot.
I didn't see.
Are you looking over the standings right now?
No, I'm
Okay.
going over them in my head.
Yeah.
If Baker goes and beats Baltimore this week, then Pittsburgh is only 2 games out. Like, it's not.
Yeah, Cleveland's one of the ones
unreasonable.
that's kind of a, no pun intended, a wild card in
Yeah.
this mix, because I still feel completely unsure of what they are. I don't have a clue if that team's going to be in the mix or not. It feels like they could implode and Freddie Kitchens get fired mid-season and the whole thing just get blown up.
Well,
Or
that got them some wins last year.
yeah, exactly. Maybe they just do it again. But I could also see it going the other way, where they just are kind of working through some growing pains and they figure it out and get hot and even win the division. I think that's still in play too.
That team is so talented.
It is. That's what I'm saying. Like, that wouldn't be surprising. So it's kind of weird to see them sputtering as much as they are. But
I just think if they go and beat Lamar Jackson, that leaves room for the Steelers.
And not only that, if they do that, that's a huge momentum boost.
Yeah,
like that's going to be what that team needs.
I think Cleveland is going to be too up and down throughout the year to do anything real. Important.
You got to think of the personalities on that team. Think about Baker and Odell and how emotional they are. That a win like that, I think those types of players need to play with confidence. And when you see Baker just looking all grumpy,
when they come out with too much
and
confidence, they lose to the Titans.
They got blown out by the Titans too. So you're right. There's a balance there. But as of right now, they play like a team that does not believe in themselves. That AFC is going to be kind of a
wide
mess.
open.
Kind of a mess
for the wild card spots. It's wide open. The top 2 it's probably going to New England or KC.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm pretty confident in both
But
of
every
those.
other
Locking
spot
those
is
in.
kind of just open.
Yeah. Baltimore, I would say, is the 3rd best team, but nothing's guaranteed there either.
No, they played the Chiefs well.
They did, but
Lamar Jackson still looks like an insane Madden quarterback.
Yes, but I think we did also see a little bit of kind of coming back down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't look nearly like the same dominant force he was in the first 2 games. He was still good, but didn't look like that same level. He kind of came back down a little bit.
He looked a little off sync.
Yeah.
I think it's nothing too much to read into. I think he's going to be
Yeah, I mean, it's still his
somewhere in the
first-
middle, of course, between what we've seen and that, but I think closer to what we've seen.
You think
the
the
first 2
first 2 weeks
Yeah.
are more indicative than that week 3?
Absolutely. I think
Okay.
so.
To me, I think it's somewhere in between. I think he's going to be good, but probably not at that insane MVP level. So, to me, it felt like in that game, like you said, they played him really well, but I felt like they just didn't quite have enough firepower. Like, it always felt like KC was going to be able to pull it out no matter what.
No, if they stopped him on that screen, that final screenplay they ran,
Yeah.
I think he scores.
Yeah.
I do think he scores. And I mean, what they missed,
Yeah, you're
3
right.
2-point conversions, they would have been tied.
That was weird, too. That was kind of weird.
Sure, it was weird, but when you think about it, and Harbaugh talked about it after the game, if they make those, they're tied up, right? Because it was 6 points. He almost had it right. They just needed better play calls, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that you can always just second guess based on the outcome. But in the moment, even then, I kind of thought it was a little odd. But yeah, I mean, I guess you can see it. It's just not what coaches typically decide. And I don't think it's what the cheat sheet says. But, I'm fine with people going off the sheet. If they believe in something, go for it. But yeah, I mean, it was a close game, but I still felt coming away from that game like Kansas City's a class above. Sounds like you feel a little different. You think they're kind of close to the same tier?
I think Kansas City is better.
Yeah.
They went, they won the game.
Right.
I just think if he got the ball back, he was scoring.
That was, I think,
Which is why they're better. They came up with the perfect play call.
That's true.
The
Yeah.
fake screen to the screen, and yeah.
Winning the game doesn't always make you the better team, but it makes you the better team on that day. So They were the better team on that day. So that was, I think, probably the best game of week 3. Week 4, let's talk about some of those games. There are a lot of terrible games this week. There were not a ton of great ones, but we picked out 4 that we thought were the best ones. First, I'd say Vikings-Bears. That's a really crucial.
Yeah, that's what I'm really interested in.
Yeah, really crucial division game. Both are 2-1. So they're going to want to try to keep pace with the Packers as well as they can. So whichever team, I mean, assuming the Packers play well tonight on Thursday Night Football, you're going to want to keep pace with them. So the team that loses is going to fall 2 back now, and that's a bit of a deficit. If the Packers lose Thursday Night Football, then you're moving into first place in the division or tie for first. So,
which the Packers at this point would have the tiebreaker over these two teams.
Yeah. So and also, aside from all of that, it's also a really fun matchup because it's 2 really good defenses, teams that know each other really well, know how to play against each other's schemes. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Bears D versus the Vikings run game, as much as it's clicking right now, it's going to be fun to see who gets the better end of that.
Khalil Mack is a black hole where offensive plays go to die.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's the thing that terrifies me the most is if the Vikings get down early in that game, it might just be game over. Because he's seen, I think it was 3rd most pressure of any quarterback in the league, just in terms of percentage.
To see a lot more.
And they can't pass protect right now. And they're going against one of the best pass rushing teams and best pass rushing player. That's a bit of a nightmare scenario. So the Vikings absolutely have to get that lead early in the game and just run. And it doesn't always work that way. So that'll be a fun one. Second game that I had on the list here, Patriots-Bills. I think we already covered that one quite a bit, but
interesting with them being undefeated.
Both 3-0.
In Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected that to be a 3-0 matchup. But, man, if the Bills can pull that upset, then you're definitely going to have to take them seriously as a wild card contender. Even if they win, I'm not giving them any chance to win the division. The Patriots will still win that, but that puts them in a great spot for the wild card. And then next on the list, we had Eagles-Packers. That is tonight's Thursday Night Football game. So, I mean, if you're listening to this, you may have already known the results of that game. We're recording this Thursday morning. How you feeling about this one?
We got to find out about the Eagles. Packers should win based on what we've seen from the Eagles.
Yeah, I like I've been saying about the Packers, I don't trust their offense. This is the game that they need to prove it. The offense needs to show up in this game and win them that game. I think they really need. I don't think
they need to. I think the defense could easily win this game.
I'm not saying they need it to win the game. I'm saying they need it to prove that their offense can do that in a big spot. For their outlook going forward, they need to have a game where Rodgers just comes out and looks like his old self, or even the run game. Just they need that offense to start clicking. If they have another game with mediocre offense and the defense just carries them, I mean, I guess that's still good news for them if they keep winning, but it still makes them look like kind of an incomplete type of team.
Until they lose, I don't think it matters. Until they lose because they can't score, I don't think it matters.
That's true, yeah. I mean, as long as it doesn't burn them, we've seen teams in the past that are just all defense can make it pretty far. The Eagles, though, that's what I think is going to be a bigger mystery. They're so weird, the Eagles. They look like the absolute
They're just
class.
Waiting till they're counted out, and then they're going to come
exactly.
back.
They look like the class of the NFC at some parts, and then just trash other parts. We just need to see them put it together for a full 4 quarters. Just play one whole game of looking elite, and then I'll buy in because they're talented across the board. We talked about that in the preseason. They just have one of the best rosters, maybe the best roster in terms of talent. Wentz really just needs to have one of those games.
Well, they're banged up.
They are, and that's the problem. All of his receivers, all of his weapons, we were talking about how deep they are at the skill positions. They're all gone because everyone on that team got hurt. So I want one of those performances where Wentz just puts it on his back. Like you said about Tom Brady, who it doesn't really matter who he's throwing to. Wentz needs that type of performance where he just comes out, hits anybody who's out there, and carries them. And I think he's capable of it. We've seen him look like an MVP, but it was 2 years ago.
But currently we're seeing this Green Bay team, defensive-wise, look very good.
We've got our picks coming up later in the show. I feel like we're going to be on opposite sides of this game.
Oof.
But let's get to the other one, which I think is the best game, the Sunday night game.
Yeah.
Cowboys at Saints. That one right there, you really wish Drew Brees was in it because then you would be probably looking at the top 2 teams in the NFC, potentially. Not to disrespect the Rams, but those 2 teams are very, very high up on the list. The Cowboys, like I said before, are clicking on all cylinders. The Saints have played really well too, and with Teddy, I don't know. I just don't know if they're going to be able to put up enough offense.
Man, I love Teddy.
Hey, don't talk to me about loving Teddy. My concern is what they let Teddy do, because that offense last week was so conservative.
You're at Seattle. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
The situation's different. This one's going to be at home.
In the dome. I think Sean Payton, dial some things up. I think this offense is very tailored going forward for Teddy. Of course, he's not going to take it from Drew Brees. Drew Brees is going to play for as long as he wants, but you have
it's another
ultimate
week.
possession receiver in Thomas. You have an astounding back in Kamara.
Yeah, Kamara had a great game.
Yeah, and I think
last week.
I think he can do it.
No, I definitely think he's capable of it. I feel like right now, if what we were saying about the Cowboys is legit, granted it was lesser competition, like we said, but they are red hot. So if the Cowboys come in and just start, getting that early couple score lead, I don't know if the Saints are going to be able to turn it on like that with Teddy when it's just an offense that they're not all on the same page yet. Because granted, Teddy's been there, but
see his post game.
Yeah,
they're going to be there for him.
Oh no! I believe
I think they're going to step up for him, and they're going to. I think this offense is about to blow up.
The problem is just about reps. Like, he's been on the team for 2 years now, but playing together is just very different. Being in the building's not the same as being on the field together and playing. I think it's going to take him a couple weeks to really get comfortable. So, me personally, I'm leaning Dallas in that game, but I'm really excited for the game because if they turn it loose and actually let Teddy run the real offense, that's exciting, and I'm ready to watch that. So I'm pumped for that game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so following up on last week, we started our little picks pool where we're picking 4 games against the spread each week.
Did we go over last week?
I
don't want to.
We don't need to recap each individual game, but I went 4-0.
Nice.
So take my bets to Vegas. Matt's money makers.
Well, you're betting
that's what this segment is called. Matt's money makers. Because that was 4-0. That was money in your pocket. What were your results last week?
We went 500.
2-2.
2-2.
2-2. All right, let's get to this week. Who you got?
I got KC covering the 6.5 point spread. I think they're just going to throw a lot of offense together. They've been getting stalled during parts of games. I look for them just to score every quarter, every possession this game, and I don't think Detroit can keep up.
Spoiler, that's one of mine also. Yeah. How in the world is that spread 6.5?
They're undefeated,
Yeah, I mean, granted, Vegas always gives the 2.5 to 3 points to the home team, but give me that game all day. I will
Patrick Mahomes game in a dome.
Is that true?
That's what I heard.
I hadn't heard that.
Because he's only played last year.
That's even more reason to favor the Chiefs.
He's going
that type of offense
to air it out.
Oh my God, that's going to be fun. They are going to beat the Lions by 20 points. So 6.5, you got it. Go ahead.
Daniel Jones racking up another win.
Damn
with
it.
at least 3 points.
You're copying my picks. That one is also on mine.
Pretty sure my list was done first. And we also got Pittsburgh getting their first win of...
Go back to the Giants.
Yeah.
Go back to the Giants. What was the spread on that one?
Just like 3 points.
3 points over Washington?
Yeah.
Okay. That one was kind of a confusing line too. I thought if they always typically give 3 points to the home team, they only got the 3 points. Whereas I feel like the Giants are a notch above the Redskins right now. Maybe I'm just really down on the Redskins, but
we might see, Dwayne Haskins, maybe they're thinking,
maybe
the 2 first-round quarterbacks battle out after halftime.
Yeah, the more I think about it, Saquon's out too, so you're really just banking on Daniel Jones at that point. So yeah, the 3 points is logical, but I'm taking the Giants also. That was one of mine as well.
Got Pittsburgh getting their first win by more than 3.5 points against Cincinnati. They've been throwing the ball well in Cincinnati, but that defense for Pittsburgh has looked pretty decent recently with the addition of Fitzpatrick. They got several takeaways last week. Look for that to continue. And lastly, I got my upset, the Saints over the Cowboys.
All right. That's a good one.
It's a close matchup,
It's only 2.5 points.
Yeah, I got 2 points here, but I'll take the 2.5.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a home underdog, which is always nice.
I really look for the Saints to open it up, play calling wise, and I think this is a real test for Dallas for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So I already covered 2 of mine. I had the same ones as you. So I had the Giants -3. I had the Chiefs minus the 6.5 against the Lions. I'm also taking tonight the Eagles. I'm taking that one. The Eagles
sounds like a pick from the heart.
Not at all. Not at all. The Eagles are getting 4 points, and like I said, I believe they're a more talented roster. They haven't played like it so far, but I feel like they're a more talented roster.
Right now with injuries and
that's a good point. That's a good point. But yes, I still like that team. I think they have enough to get by. Like I said, I like Wentz to have a really big game tonight. We'll see if I look like a fool because that defense is strong. Maybe this is the game where they start to look a little human. We'll see. We'll see. And my last pick, I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars +3 in Denver. I think the Denver slide continues. I think the Jags win that game. But if you're going to give me 3 points, I'll take them. I think Gardner Minshew and DJ Chark, they've got a pretty great connection. That offense is looking a little sharper than what we've seen in years past. I like what they're doing. That Thursday night game, I don't think we covered that Thursday night game on the podcast. I thought Gardner Minshew looked really, really good in that game. Some of the receivers were kind of letting him down with some drops, but he looked really good. I'm buying in, and I think they beat Denver. So give me the 3 points on that one, and I'm 4-0 again. All right, so that's going to do it for us for this week. As always, guys, remember, if you want to get us above 1,113th.
Can't wait to be a top 1,000 podcast.
Yeah, remember to do those reviews and the ratings. They help us a ton. And follow on Twitter @MattTalkSports. And we will see you guys next week. Michael, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.
Absolutely.